So our march towards an authoritarian COVID state grows faster by the day. Wales will lock down entirely for 2 weeks despite hard evidence that such a measure is not associated, I repeat, not associated with decreased COVID-19 mortality. Meanwhile, you may have missed this, but it slipped out quietly over the weekend that police are being given access, or they could be given access to your personal data from the NHS Test and Trace app. That's the biggest own goal of the crisis so far, in my opinion, because all it's going to do is encourage people to delete that app from their phone as quickly as possible. But as Big Brother attempts to track our movements to ensure COVID compliance, an altogether more disturbing trend is emerging when it comes to how the rich and the powerful are impacted by this virus. Britain's elite seem to believe the draconian rules they are opposing on us mere mortals do not apply to them. It's becoming the ultimate example of do as I say, not as I do. So there's Tony Blair, dining out at a posh restaurant after returning from the US, refusing to adhere to the strict 14-day quarantine, just like Kanye West before him. There's another former Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, flouting the laws all the time, despite the fact he is personally in a vulnerable age group. There's pious Health Secretary Matt Hancock, who seems to take great pleasure in preaching to us all on a daily basis about the freedoms we need to give up, but he's refusing to answer whether he downed booze in Parliament after the 10 p.m. curfew he is enforcing on the hospitality industry. And then there's the SNP's shameless Margaret Ferrier, who slammed Dominic Cummings for driving with his sixth wife and son in a car to seek refuge when he had COVID. But when she got the virus, Nicola Sturgeon's closest ally didn't give a damn about infecting the rest of us. Ferrier, remember, refused orders to self-isolate and hopped on a train from London to Scotland. Her justification for doing that was that COVID had clouded her brain. Well, I've had the virus too, Ms. Ferrier, and the one thing that I was absolutely certain of is that I was not going to set foot outside of my own front door and pass it on to anyone else. Have the police taken action? Of course not. Has Ms. Ferrier resigned as an MP? Of course not. So she remains a stain on the SNP, Sturgeon's SNP. But look, it's becoming increasingly obvious to me there is one rule for our leaders and another rule for folk like us, which is going to make it pretty difficult for our political leaders as they try to curb our civil liberties and freedoms with increasingly ridiculous measures not backed up by any science. There's only one figure that should be dominating the headlines today. Official statistics have shown that at least 26,000 poor souls, 26,000 poor souls, have died at home since the March lockdown because they wouldn't or couldn't go to hospital. That is the true cost of these ongoing lockdowns. And if we continue with our current policy approach, it's only going to get worse. So where do you stand on this? Do you agree with that decision by the Welsh Government to impose a very strict 2-week lockdown on its population from this Friday? The rules for Wales actually are going to be incredibly tough. It's much tougher than even the Tier 3 lockdown. For 2 weeks in Wales, you will follow strict stay-at-home orders from Friday, you'll be told to. Pubs, restaurants and all non-essential retail will be closed. There'll be no meeting with anyone outside your household. No alcohol sales after 10 p.m. Leisure centres and services, including gyms, will have to close. Hairdressers and beauty services will have to close. And there will be no gatherings allowed outdoors, including Halloween and fireworks on bonfire night. And let me repeat, this will not decrease the COVID mortality rate.